Top Republicans are now calling out FBI Director Christopher Wray for his use of a taxpayer-funded government plane to transport. He flew to the Adirondacks to take a vacation with his family. This is We Wait Answers on the Department of Justice's raid of Donald Trump's home.
And joining us now is Kentucky Congressman and Ranking Member of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Congressman, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So I do want to talk to you about this. You, along with other members of the House Oversight Committee, wrote a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray over this alleged report of him using taxpayer funds for personal travel in government. So basically, as Rob said, he took up a plane to go see his family. And my understanding is that he can do that, but he needs to reimburse those charges, correct? Tell us about that.
That's correct. And you could imagine the expense incurred in taking a private jet to anywhere in America right now. We've looked through the records. We see no indication of where he's ever reimbursed the government for similar trips. I would assume that considering the cost of reimbursing the government for that flight would be the equivalent of 10 to 15% of his salary for the entire year.
Yeah.
I would assume that he didn't plan on ever reimbursing the government. So this is just the beginning of a new era of oversight for the FBI. We are very frustrated with a lot of things within the FBI right now. And, you know, we're just starting to go down line by line on the Oversight Committee at their expenditures. And this was the first thing that popped out.
Yeah, tip of the iceberg here. If Republicans do retake the House in November, is this something that you're going to look more deeply into?
Absolutely. This is a priority. We've requested a lot of information from the FBI and our intelligence community on a host of topics. We've received nothing. The Republicans on the Oversight Committee are serious about oversight, and it's very frustrating to be sincere about trying to get the backs of the taxpayers when you have an agency as arrogant as the FBI. They are not transparent. They are not accountable. We're seeing with the latest raid on former President Trump, they don't communicate with Congress. And it's very frustrating. So, you know, when people say we want to hold a government agency or a government bureaucrat accountable, how do you do that? One way to do that is to go at their appropriations and try to make them transparent. If you see errors, if you see abuse and waste of taxpayer funds, then hold them accountable. And this is the first step in that. And this is an easy target. I mean, it's very clear you cannot use government aircraft for personal travel without reimbursing the government.
Congressman, so Christopher Wray, let's say that he is still the director of the FBI in 2.5 years. Let's say Donald Trump is somehow reelected in 2024. I think we can safely conclude that one of the first things he would do on January the 20th, 2025 is to let go, relieve Christopher Wray of his duties at the FBI. Could that be an angle to why we saw this raid 8 days ago? Christopher Wray is thinking about his political life here with this whole thing.
Well, there's certainly been a lot of criticism by my fellow Republicans and the former president of the FBI. Let's just face it. A lot of the information that we've received in Congress from the FBI has been inaccurate. You look at all the turmoil that was created over the first 2 years of the Trump presidency with respect to the Steele dossier, and then we learned the Steele dossier was completely fake. Yeah. It was bought and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. How did the FBI not recognize this? Fast forward to today, and I can tell you from oversight work we've done with Hunter Biden, it's so obvious of all the laws that have been broken, the ethics violations that have been committed by Hunter Biden. This family has been influence peddling for over a decade, and yet the FBI does nothing. In fact, one day after the FBI raids former President Trump for taking some documents with him, we see Hunter Biden flying to Kiowa Island on Air Force One.
Right.
I mean, it's just very disappointing.
Yeah, and the DOJ says that this could take months to investigate, which, of course, this timing close to the midterm. So we'll wait and see. Congressman, I do want to ask you about the one-year anniversary of the Afghanistan withdrawal. So there's a new report from House Republicans that contains new information about the number of Americans left behind and the lack of State Department staff to process Afghans trying to flee. Is this report targeting someone specific?
Well, you look at the State Department, and prior to the withdrawal of Afghanistan, I was told that there were a couple of thousand Afghanis that would need to be relocated to the United States. We believe that number is somewhere between 100 and 150,000 who have actually been relocated. Now, how did the State Department not have a better accounting of how many Afghanis were going to come to the United States? That's one question. Another question is, were these that came to the United States actually vetted? I think the State Department made a huge mistake from day one. Not only did we leave Americans behind, not only did we leave Afghanis behind that we promised to take to America, I believe we brought a lot of Afghanis to America that should have never come to America. So we have a lot of questions about what went wrong in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, this administration has provided zero answers.
Yeah, and there could still be American citizens in Afghanistan right now, a year later. A lot of reporting indicates that the answer to that is yes. Congressman, great having you back on. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
Congressman James Comer there.